everyone, today I have for you a love card, and it is using the Fresh Cut paper pack, some liquid pearls, which I'm guessing you can spot. Those are the pearlescent bits on here, and we're also using a background stamping technique, and that is coming from Teresa's Stamp Camp DVD, which has tons and tons of great stamping ideas. Stamping is one of my favorite techniques, and so I enjoyed doing this a lot, and I hope you do too. So we'll go into some of the materials I used and we'll get started on the card. This week I'm going to be using the Fresh Cut Blossoms paper pack, the Teresa Stamp Camp DVD, and the liquid pearls in Peacock. And this is sort of like fabric puff paint, if you're familiar with those. They just have a really fine tip so you can squeeze it out in fun designs. And this has a really nice pearl finish, and it's a really pretty color, and it goes perfectly with the Fresh Cut Blossoms papers. And for the Stamp Camp DVD, what I'm going to do is just reference one of Teresa's chapters in here and just tell you which technique I'm using. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my blank white card, which is 6.5 inches long by 5 inches tall, and I'm going to place it on this paper, which is, this part's going to go on the front of my card, but I'm going to place it specifically where I want the flowers to show. So I'm going to go right about here, and the easiest way for me to mark where I want to cut is to simply trace around my card and cut it out. Oops. That's okay, that'll be covered up later. Alright, so once I cut out this rectangle, then we'll move on. Now I've got my piece of paper for the front of my card, and now I'm going to cut around this line right here. Alright, now I'm going to set this piece aside. I won't need that. And I've got a piece here that I've also cut to the exact size of my card front. This is the yellow paper, and this is going to end up looking a little bit like this. But first, I'm going to use a technique called background stamping. So I'm using the Delicate Pattern stamp set, which comes with 6 beautiful patterns. I'm using this bottom one, which is the tiny text, and I've already got it on my acrylic block here, so I'm just going to go ahead and stamp all over this yellow piece. First, I'm going to place a piece of scrap paper behind here. Got my stamp already, and I'm going to use Pink Sky, and this is one of the Colorbox fluid chalk inks. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp. And I'm just going to cover the yellow paper with the text. And I'm going to go off the edge here just a little bit. Now the great thing about these patterns is that they're easy to repeat, since there's just 4 kind of blocks of text. You just need to go right underneath them, line it up, and stamp again. That doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, so I'm going to continue covering this piece of paper. Alright, now I'm going to set this piece aside. I'm going to take back this turquoise piece from when I cut it off. I'm actually going to use that in a different way on the front. And I'm bringing in the Easy Vintage Labels template from Hot Off the Press, and I'm going to use this to frame my greeting, which is going to be the love stamp. And this is one of the small stamps, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stamps in that tiny little stamp set. But I'm going to use the word love in the center, so I simply take my template, see which one fits the best. Looks like this green one I'm going to use. Alright, so that is the 3" by 4" shape. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out of the teal. I'm going to turn it over to the white side so I don't need to erase any pencil lines. And simply trace and cut. Now after you trace this, there's a tip I have for you to fill in those gaps. So when I remove this, you'll see that this shape has some clear gaps. Well, if you flip the template over to the other side and match up the points again and trace once again, and it's okay if you go right over those first lines a bit. We'll see if this works. I'll take it off. Well, almost. I still have a gap right here and here, but most of my gaps have been covered up by simply flipping my template around. So I will now cut this out. Alright, so here's my turquoise shape. Now I have to show you a mistake I made so that you don't make the same one. When I turned that piece of paper over and traced and cut it out, I accidentally cut out one of these swirls. So I had to cut out a completely new one. So make sure, if you do this, that you trim off any of the flowers and swirls on the front before you flip the paper over and cut out your shape. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and stamp my greeting. I'm using my jet black StazOn. I'm just going to ink up my stamp here. So it has some nice coverage, and then stamp right here in the middle. And then I'm also going to take a cosmetic wedge and ink the edges of the shape just to give it some more definition. Just dabbing it on. You can swipe or dab or mixture of both, depending on what kind of look you like. Now that's done, I'm going to bring back my card. Now I've went ahead and glued that yellow piece to the front, as you can see, and I'm taking in this floral piece that's gonna go there, but I want to kind of tuck my greeting under this pretty flower to add a little bit of a layered look. So I'm just placing it, and then I will now glue that down. Right about there. Now I can go ahead and glue my floral piece down. Alright, looking good. Now I'm going to add some ribbon, and this comes from the Fresh Cut ribbon set, this pretty polka dot ribbon. And I've already tied a small little bow here, and that's going to go right up here. We're going to stick that down with some Zots. Come in a box like this. There's just sticky dots on this roll. Simply place your object onto the dot, pull it off the backing sheet, and it transfers right over. I'm going to do a few here. And place your ribbon carefully. Press down. And there you have a beautiful bow. Now, time to add the liquid pearls. So I've got the Peacock liquid pearls here, and I recommend kind of tapping it or shaking it down towards the tip in case there are bubbles at the end. And of course, you should test it. I've got a paper towel here to see how it writes. Looks pretty smooth to me. Now, there may be some bubbles that come out later, but we'll just have to wing it here. So, I'm going to add some of these liquid pearls around the turquoise bits of the image here. I'm going to start by going around the daisy. So you really just need even pressure, not too much. I've got a little broken line, so I have to connect that. And it's a lot like fabric paint in those little bottles. It's just for paper. So, really gives it a nice dimensional look as well. So I'm just going to go around all these black lines. And little dots for the center of the red, and then some more on the bottom. Here's a little bit closer look at the lines that I've drawn. And I've also went ahead and embellished the word love just around some of the hearts. Center of the red flower and the turquoise flower at the bottom. So that's it for this card, and the inside is left blank for now. But I hope you enjoyed making the card front nice and sparkly. Well, I should say pearlescent, but the liquid pearls, I have to remind you, take a long time to dry. So it's safest to wait overnight, but at least an hour or so, and make sure to test a small area first before you go and smear the whole thing, just to make sure it's completely dry, and then you can send it off to your excited recipient. This week's bundle includes the Fresh Cut Blossoms paper pack, which has 12 papers. They're all 12 inches square, and the packaging has some scrapbook ideas for you. On the back, here's another scrapbook spread, as well as a card idea, some other coordinating products that Hot Off the Press produces, and each of the page designs. So you're getting 2 of each design. I'll just show you 1 of each design to be more time efficient. This is the first one. It has a beautiful side border of huge, gorgeous, fresh cut flowers. This one is a more muted yellow and beige design, kind of got that line art. And then we've got a turquoise with some bright reddish pinkish swirls, an all over floral. Of course, we have to have those beautiful big blossoms. And this is another line art with black lines on this textured pink background, and another muted one that's got tone on tone with a bright red and kind of a swirl background that's been kind of distressed almost, kind of shaded back into the background. So those are the 6 designs in the Fresh Cut Blossoms. Also, we have the Peacock liquid pearls. These come from Ranger, and 1 bottle of these goes quite a long way. And then we of course have Teresa's Stamp Camp DVD.